Heyo, you're listening to Edge Coach Quip, featuring our very own Edge coaches and community, dropping knowledge nuggets to fuel your day. Hey everyone, welcome back to Coach Quip. I'm Coach Robyn.
I'm Coach Chris.
And today, episode 165, this is a fun one, talking about sticky coach comments.
All right, what do you mean by sticky coach comments?
So, it's a little terrifying. As a coach, we know for sure that you all athletes remember things that we say, like to a point that frightens us, to be honest, because we say a lot of things and then to have it brought back to us because it stuck with you is great and cool, but it's also kind of good to know what you're saying is being heard and retained.
Yeah.
So we asked all of our Edge coaches, what have you had an athlete repeat back to you that you said to them? Like, what was a sticky coaching comment or a moment, however surprising it may be? And their answers are pretty awesome.
Yeah, some of these were, I was like, oh, I see the little, inspirational thing that somebody really took to heart. But some of them were really funny.
Yep, yeah. And it's, again, it's cool that you all, you listen and retain. One of the coolest things I think as a coach is when I will, let's say during a run session, roll up on a pace group from usually like from behind if I'm kind of like hopscotching or I kind of like nestle my way in, and to hear an athlete repeat back something that a coach has given them to another athlete, right? We talk a lot about the ripple effect, right? Mm-hmm. Like if we can do one thing and then it has more and more ripples and we've got more dots and more ripples, it just grows this beautiful web. And that's when I'm like, my job here is done.
Yeah. That is awesome. And then, the times when they say something back, well, when you told me blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, did I say that? It kind of sounds like something I would say, but I don't specifically remember that.
I just nod. If it's good, I'm like, yes, I said that.
Yeah, that was me. That was 100% me. All right, well, let's kick it off.
All right, first up, we've got Coach Katie. Hers is that the quote was, "The hard is what makes it great." And I think she's really good about this as an athlete herself, kind of really embracing that hard phase of races and training and really seeing the point in it and not just getting ground down by it. Specifically, probably this one was related to something ultra related. Mm-hmm. In a 50K, 50 mile and up, there are going to be periods that are just dark. The beauty is knowing that, one, they're not always going to last, but then really to kind of lean into that and know that the hard part is really what's making it special and making it a worthwhile kind of attempt and adventure.
Yeah, love it. And of course that tracks. Ultra distance. Next up is Coach Shauna. And you already know. Yeah, this one was great. So the athlete quote back to Coach Shauna was, "You aren't dying, you just think that you are." I love this so much because one, I mean, I can hear the voice saying it, and like the context is like you're capable of a lot more than you think you are, and even in those moments when you're suffering, you're still going to come out on the other side. So this is like a great example is speed work, right? So like in those moments that are really tough, how empowering for you as an athlete to maybe hear that from your coach and then go, all right, it feels like I'm dying, but I'm not really. I just think that I am. Like, to get through those sessions on the other side with Coach Shauna's voice in your head, that's a fantastic one.
This one applies really a lot to adult athletes too, right? Coach Bennett talks a lot about when you're running fast and learning to run and use your gears, trying to run like a kid, because a kid will go out and just go nuts, right? Will just go at 100%. They're not anticipating having their lungs burn or having their legs burn. They're just going for it. And as an adults, we have governors, right? Like we self-limit because we are anticipating what it's going to feel like. Mm-hmm. And it's cool to know, like, you might actually feel like you're dying. You might feel like poo, but you're doing okay, right? That's part of the normal process, especially if we're talking about something that has a higher heart rate component to it.
Yep.
All right, next up is Coach Dan. This one I thought was great. He didn't necessarily have one that like a coach or an athlete regurgitated back to him, but rather that athletes have told him that they really like as a coach to see him putting in the work beside them. Even if he's like coaching a session or leading a session, they really like that. I think this one's probably specific to our track Thursdays where we have 6 a.m. meetups on the track, whether they stay on the track or the whole time we do speed work as well. And a lot of times he's very good about being able to do both I could do better learning that skill. But he really can manage both, and it really does elevate the group because they are able to see him working beside them, and it makes them want to work harder too. So it's that whole draft horse effect, just in a coach-athlete dynamic.
Next up is Coach Cass. So Coach Cass framed this up as like, it sounds bad out of context.
I love this one. This is probably my favorite one.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Do you want to do it?
No, do it.
Okay, so Coach Cass said, do it better. And so it was...
I love that, though. Like, that would be in my head forever. Like, if you do a rep, next one, just do it better.
Yeah. And of course, out of context, it could sound condescending or what have you, but it's inspirational, right? So like, it is inspirational in the way that you frame it up, and it worked, and they did do better in the next rep. So now it's a joke that she has with one of the athletes. They can laugh about it, but that voice is always in that person's head saying, "Do it better."
Well, and better is. It's cool because it can be really interpreted a lot of ways. It can be you can lift heavier. Maybe you go slower to make it harder. Maybe you just make it prettier.
Yep.
Right? Maybe you're more aware of your breath. Like, what is better? But doing it better kind of is the whole point.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I'm gonna hear Coach Cass.
I am too. Do it better. I kind of want like a just do it better on my shirt. Coach Cass's kind of leads into Coach Jace's, which I love his because it really speaks to his kind of training tone and coaching methodology. It is, may your next move become your best move. And it's so good. He's so good in the moment that you are working on the exercise you're working on. You're not thinking about the next one. He's giving you extremely strong cueing to get your stance right, to get your breathing right, to get the movement pattern down, to get the speed down, and really providing that focus in a strength class and really segment that workout out or that exercise out. It gives you the power to single task and have the true opportunity of making that next move that you do become your best one yet.
Yeah, love that. Next up is Coach Matt, and Coach Matt's quote, "There is no such thing as bad weather, just soft people."
This is like classic though for him.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like this version a lot because people have like a real aversion to feeling like they're soft, right? Like when they're when they're training, they want to feel strong. They want to feel fast if they're running, right? So this is just such a classic Coach Matt phrase, and it really like kind of leans into going outside during a gnarly winter, right? Like being an outdoor runner year round, or doing the hard things like making the decision to go on the 606 when it's raining as opposed to jumping on a treadmill. Like those are the moments that can really build character, and I feel like character is a big part of Coach Matt's coaching style.
Yeah, and he's very much like an eyes wide open person. Like he wants to experience it, obviously safely still, but he knows on the flip side of that, when you get done with a run like that and you chose the harder thing to do and you ended better for it, the measurable of that is so worth the process. Like you can be really proud of who you are that day.
Yeah, and I think the delivery on this too is also important, right? Coach Matt is like such a nice guy, and then like if he was calling me soft, I would take that really well. Like, okay, don't be soft. Like I don't want to be, I want to.
That's a Bill Bowerman quote, though. He didn't make it up.
Oh, of course, yeah. But like, I think when you hear it from your coach, right, then it doesn't matter if Gandhi says it. It's like
Coach Matt said it.
Coach Matt said it.
Next up is Coach Berkeley. I really like this one because Coach Berkeley she ran collegiately. She's been doing marathons. I don't know how many. I think way more than any of our other coaches. Like, I should probably ask her that and confirm that. But I love hers is nothing you on race day and just keep fucking going. I love that. Like, it's so simple when you're thinking about a marathon, which has so many miles and so many minutes where things can go awry. If you just toe the line and know, I got nothing new. Like, we've executed, we've planned it. All we have to do is just carry out that plan and just keep going. Okay. That's like the purest, most simple marathon mindset I can imagine. And that is going to keep you crystal clear.
Yeah. Coach J-Ro said, embrace the pain cave. And I love this one in context of thinking about this room we're in right now, of the bike room, and Coach J-Ro teaching some bike classes, right? This is, embrace it. Like, embrace the suffering, embrace the hurt. It's temporary, and you will come out on the other side a stronger person for putting yourself in that position of discomfort.
I also like that it has a location, in a way. right?
Yeah.
If you step into this room, which we're quite literally in it, right? Or maybe you have a setup at home, that becomes the space where you know that you might get a little bit uncomfortable, right? This is why people, when they get into treadmill training, they get really into not only doing it on treadmill, but the particular treadmill that they use, right?
Yeah.
It's this whole idea of having a location. Next up is Coach Derek. This one was interesting to me because I coached an athlete for a long time, and he has gone to Derek's classes, and he used this as his mantra in a 100-miler, and I think I now know where it came from.
Oh,
so
nice.
His was slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So, Coach Derek really cues a lot with this when he is doing personal training or group classes. So it just makes sure that you're not rushing the movement and that you're being mindful about how you're moving. My athlete took that and applied it again to running so that he had a tendency to go a little too hot and then fade in the back and really truly positive split when he really shouldn't be. But he repeated this to himself over and over, the slow is smooth and smooth is fast, because it's controlled and he can eat and get enough oxygen, and it became his just truly like battle cry. I mean, I would not be surprised if he had it tattooed. So good job, Coach Derek.
Yeah, no, now I'm wondering if my triathlete who does this is their motto in the pool, if they also, I'm trying to think, when did they see Coach Derek?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense now. All right, Coach Worm, relax and breathe. And that's just really simple, right? Like, just relax and breathe. So I think about this in terms of tempo runs in those harder sections, and this is like such a Coach Worm thing too, right? To like really just settle into that section of work and relax and breathe, because you're going to make it through, and it might be a little uncomfortable, but you can control that piece of your suffering. And it's just such a simple, mindful thing that can be applied to a lot more than just running.
And with all of these, it really is our hope that you kind of like latch onto one or two of these and you can use it and share it, and it can be a little nugget for you too. All right, next up is Coach Kat. And I have heard this one repeated back to me from athletes several times, which is just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. So she's really great at in a strength class having one type of exercise at once and not necessarily combining as much, because she wants you to do it as beautifully and as powerfully as possible. And she always strips it down and says, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy, right? It just means that it's a simple exercise. So you don't necessarily need crazy, fancy, complicated things in order to have big impact and make them real pretty and perfect.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up is me. And the one that I hear athletes repeat back to me, it happened twice this season, was stay within yourself. And in the context of a triathlon, specifically, I give this advice to my athletes going into the bike leg, because a lot of my athletes go out too fast in the bike and then really suffer on the run of, say, like an Ironman race or a half iron. And so the advice that I've given them is to stay within themselves, and they've told me that they really knew the range of their effort that they should execute, and they've had wonderful runs after that. So they said that voice was in their minds back to them.
I like that. I think my coach said that to me too.
Yeah?
He always said, stay within your box.
Oh, yeah.
Don't nice. Box outside your box, especially in the first two legs of something that's very long.
Yeah.
You can go ham on the run, but don't go outside of those parameters before you need to.
Yeah.
Mine is probably a little bit more lighthearted than others, which is when someone can go to the point of failure and frankly throwing up. I told an athlete this, he was a newer runner, and he told me about a speed run he did, and he was like, Coach, I went and I did this, and then I threw up all over the track, and then I got up and I did it again. And he was like embarrassed about it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, holy moly, you can go there. Like the fact that you mentally, especially as an adult athlete, that you could push yourself on your own to that level. Like you do not need to do that all the time, but how incredible that you're able to go there. And it's funny because he initially thought it was, again, something to be embarrassed about, or the sign that, he was deconditioned. And now he really truly views himself as someone who can do really hard things because he does have that mental capacity to almost override his physical limitations. Again, I don't always need you all to do that, but wow, to be able to push like that is really, truly a gift. And I think I surprised him with my answer, but then he's been using it for like 8+ years. So I'd say it stuck.
It's amazing. Yeah, as coaches, we are always surprised by the things that stick with you. I'm always surprised and actually, always very, very happy when athletes come into my class and say something back from these Coach Quip episodes.
Yep.
Some of the things that resonate with them, or I hear them talking to each other using some of the things that we said. So coaches, you never know what they're going to latch onto, and athletes, we don't just say things to say them. And so, I think that as a coach, I feel like I throw a lot of, maybe semi-inspirational things into whatever we're discussing, because I'm looking for what my athlete is going to latch onto.
Yeah, and what resonates.
Yeah. But when you find it, when you hear that thing that clicks, I think athletes can get a lot of value out of reminding themselves of the wisdom that their coaches have given them.
I think too, before you go to race day, if racing is your thing, or in the race reports, I ask my athletes that I coach to kind of identify a mantra they might use going in, and then after to know what they actually used is so cool. And then they have it written down, and now we have like a list of things that they can go back to. So start thinking about those things that we've said to you, that your teammates have said to you, that you've seen signs on the side of the course. Latch onto those, because there's a reason they're sticky. So you got to keep them front of mind.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Mend. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.